So we don't want to take too much of your time, but also want to say that thank you so much for agreeing to speak to us.
Yeah.
I'm so glad, guys. I love a good podcast.
Yeah.
I can chat for hours.
Exactly. And congratulations on yours. On the
your podcasts are really cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's such a weird thing because it just sort of happened. I was peer pressured into doing it by a friend. And then I said, I'll do it if you produce the whole thing. So he was like, okay, fine. And then that's how and that's what happened.
Because for me, I think I was also just really interested about how you did that, like pre-recording all the episodes and then releasing it, or,
Yeah, so we pre-recorded everything and then we edited the content because obviously there's some things that get spoken about that maybe the guest doesn't want to release just yet, or they're not ready to speak about publicly. Like one of our guests is launching a book and she found out like from a publisher that she can't actually talk. Oops. Sorry guys, I got a call. How do I stop calls from coming? Do I switch off my date? Let me just see.
You are probably just airplane mode.
Okay, doing that now. Sorry.
No,
how do I get back to Zoom? Okay, I'm back.
I'm back.
Sorry, I'm not a Zoom expert.
That's fine.
I don't think anybody
Zoom expert
is like a Zoom expert. We've all just like been thrown into this Zoom
deep end.
It's crazy. Like all my meetings are on Zoom and I still can't figure it out. I'm like, where am I? Am I talking or not?
Yeah. And they like updated it now and then.
Yeah, that's true. So we were speaking about the podcast. Oh yeah, so we pre-recorded everything and then someone edits it, the producer edits it and adds like the little ad libs in, and we do some voiceovers and then add those in, and then we post it on. And also sometimes the voice levels are different, like it's all very technical. I don't really understand it. I just speak and then I'm like, you guys do what you gotta do.
I'm so awesome. I mean, it's so awesome then that you have someone that can help you who really wanted to produce it for you, So
you guys should actually get in contact with him. I'll send you the details later because he's got a company called POC Podcasts. They kind of launched off of our work together, and he's like producing a lot of stuff for different people and different kinds of podcasts as well. There's one on like fatherhood, and I think there's something coming out about health and all that kind of stuff.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Love to hear that.
Yeah. So, do you want to?
You go.
Okay. Well, I thought that Mario would want to get the introduction from you because obviously you guys know each other for longer. But
you speak better.
Okay. Yeah. I'm assuming that most of the people who are going to be watching this are going to know who you are, but please, for the sake of just this, give us who you see yourself as in maybe.
Oh my gosh, that's such a deep question.
Who are you? Who are you, or who do you feel you are now in like just 2 sentences?
Yeah. Oh, 2 sentences is
or even 3 or 4.
Oh, even okay, 5.
I might do 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
So yeah, I started out as a blogger. It was about 10 or 11 years ago now. I started blogging when I was a student, and that's just because I kind of chose the wrong degree for me. I was very pressurized by my family to do something in the business field, so I studied a BCom management. I actually wanted to study fashion. In retrospect, I actually should have studied media, but you don't know those things when you're 18.
Yeah, right.
So I started this blog, and then it kind of became popular amongst other university students because we were all kind of feeling the same way, maybe just like loving something and then studying something else, So it was more about like fashion and beauty, and there were some like personal anecdotes I used to write about, like your first breakup or like leaving your high school friends, and then there was one, I think, like breaking up with your high school sweetheart, like all those kind of very relevant topics at the time to us anyway. And then it kind of grew into this accidental business. And then I think maybe like 5 years ago, this influencer word came up. So then we were suddenly called influencers, and we were like, okay, let's just go with that term. And then obviously with influencing, it's more of a social media thing. So kind of migrated over to social media. I still do have a blog, but I don't update it as often, just because I don't have the time. So when I started blogging, there was just like Facebook, I think. And maybe like Twitter came later. So then all these like social media avenues like popped up, you know, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and there's like so many things that you have to have right now. So I think it just got really full, and I haven't really quite found my place, but I think I'm more like focused on Instagram. And then the blog kind of fell away a little bit. And now I'm entering a new space of I've always wanted to own my own brand, or clothing brand, and I was never quite ready to go that route, and I didn't want to do it just like off the bat. So now I'm in the space of sort of stepping into my entrepreneurial side, which has always been there, and launching my brand, which is called Big Collection. It's kind of cool because you know, I was always so nervous to do this, and I didn't know what I would have called it, and I didn't have the expertise, and now it's all kind of come together. And Bait Collection felt like a very natural. Oh, yeah, man. Why must this thing do this? Sorry, I got a phone call. I don't know how it's still phoning me.
Sure, probably a WhatsApp call or something.
Yeah. I was just saying that it's all kind of come together, so it all worked out, and now I'm stepping more into that space, still doing the influencing side of things, but focusing more on my business, and you know, like paying UIF now and taxes and all these things. I've always paid tax, but I mean like bigger tax, which is kind of scary. So it's like I'm in a growth phase now, so I would call myself an entrepreneur. Or small business owner. And of course I am a mom as well. And then an influencer, because I am still doing that.
I
love it so much. And maybe I feel like you have a lot of business acumen inside of you. I think in order to do anything, like I know Mario comes from a music background, and so do I. And generally, in order to be successful in the arts, you have to have a certain level of business acumen, because it's like half about the art and the content or whatever, and then half about like knowing what's a really good business decision. And sometimes the business decision is even like knowing what content to post that your audience, you know, is going to respond to.
In the South African context especially.
I think it's even more than that. And I think just off the cuff, generally I think why you've been so successful is because of that. You've got a good sort of business acumen, and you've got a good sense of and I think might have even come from that business degree. And
it actually did, funny enough.
Might have been a good thing.
It's a good thing in retrospect, but like if anyone's listening that is a student and then like kind of confuses what to study, if you are interested in media, it's nice to do like a bachelor degree in media, and then maybe a postgraduate in marketing or business, which is just a year. I think that's more beneficial, because then you kind of have both sides of the coin. And in the South African context, unfortunately for us, like you have to be a jack of all trades. You can't just you can't just be in music, you know, I have to like run your brand as well, which is so stressful, because, you know, if you go to other countries who have people who have managers, and it's so easily accessible, which it isn't for us. And that's like, it's a bummer, but, you know, we have to like equip ourselves and educate ourselves and level ourselves up where we can. There's also like cool courses like on Coursera and Masterclass and all these like free courses now. So there are ways to upskill yourself. It's so unfortunate that that's what the youth has to do, though. That kind of irritates me. Like we have to like upskill ourselves constantly. It's like
to like stay relevant, you know, or we were talking to a friend of ours who is working in Dubai and manages social media for a brand, like North Africa and South Africa. And they were saying specifically within the realm of influencers that like those influencers have to pay a tax every year to be allowed to be an influencer or even accept
because
money.
I realized the government sort of realized, especially in sort of the Middle East area, and like they realized that they were making so much money
as influencers.
they had to, now there's like a almost special influencer tax. Like that they have to pay above like normal taxes, or like it's almost like a membership fee
to regulate money,
to be part of like being paid for, and then you actually don't get paid if you're not part of that sort of association.
So I think like there's been a pros and cons to that. Like it creates a barrier to entry, I guess, in some ways, which protects like the OG people in the community, but that kind of feels a little bit unfair, especially because in Dubai it's actually so expensive to get that license. It's not a cheap thing, and then so it's like makes it like a very elite crowd, which I'm not a fan of. But I do like the concept of creating like an association or like a union, if you will, where influencers can join this union. I mean, if someone out there is like in the legal field, they could start this. It's not me. I don't want to start it. Please don't ask me to do it. But it would be like really cool if we had like our own union where we did have like a membership fee that's not a massive amount that you were part of. And I think influencers should get taxed. Well, I get taxed as a small business. I've been paying tax for years like that as a freelancer. But I suppose there could be an added tax to that's just for us, like maybe like not 28%, maybe like 15%.
For me, I think like an association should be more in terms of just equipping us of how-tos and protecting our rights, but not more so making money off us because we're making money. I know for many, many years, like there had been talks in the music industry about associations of just equipping like recording artists of like publishing and all of these things, but it's just never ever happened. And I guess it's music industry's been around for as long like since the beginning of time. So, like if there's talks of a influencer association, that would be like probably not even
in the pipeline
because I guess certain people just want to control certain things.
I think like it's also such a labor intensive thing. It would have to be like a labor of love for somebody.
It has to come from like the government.
Make a difference. And that's the government's got their hands full right now.
Exactly. But full of the money that we don't know
where's our billion?
Where is the money? Where is the funding?
I am so interested, and I love that you keep on referring to yourself as a small business, and you saying now that you have gotten taxed as a small business for quite a while now. And then you also mentioned that like about 5 years ago, the term influencer popped up, and that you obviously there had to be some sort of like shift in your mind, like, okay, this is what's happening now. I'm essentially a small business and this is what I have to do. So was there like a conscious change? Okay, the world is moving towards influencer. I need to step up. I can make money from this. Or were you making money from this before that term kind of came up?
So I was already earning a decent income from my blogging stuff. It just sort of migrated very naturally. But what happened, the small business came about was I had always banked with a specific bank, and the guy that was working there, the older guy, used to help me. He just said to me like, oh, I've noticed that he wasn't like my private banker, he was just a normal banking guy. And I told him what I was doing, and he said, oh, it sounds like you have a small business. So this is an older man who doesn't really know about the whole interwebs and the whole world. So he was like, oh, it sounds like you have a small business. If I was you, I'd open a separate banking account and just make sure that you are paying your taxes and all that kind of stuff. So then I was like, okay, cool. So I opened a separate banking account to my personal banking. And then I started earning my money in that banking account. And then naturally I needed to pay tax. So I found a tax practitioner who helped me with what I owed for taxes. It wasn't much for a while, wasn't really, sometimes not even tax. And then it came to like him suggesting to me like, oh, you should register this. And then, so it all kind of fell along. But I think there was always this fear. My father has been, and I think a lot of brown parents actually, brown and black parents are very like afraid of like, getting like their wealth taken from them. Like we've worked so hard and then things get taken from you. So he was very much like, oh, you paying tax. Like you need to make sure you pay tax, because if you don't pay tax, it's going to come for you and then you lose everything. Like there's that old anxiety amongst people of color where it's like so afraid to lose what you work for. And I suppose that's like with all of our historic stuff. So I always had it in the back of my mind, like the minute I made money, I was like, do I need to pay tax yet? Because I just don't want to get caught like doing tax.
You get like one like big check and it's like, oh, do I need to pay tax?
Like, please tell me, because I was so scared of it like disappearing. So that's kind of how it all came about. And I do advise like my other friends in industry or even freelance friends, like when they start making money and stuff, I've always be like, oh, you know, you can access this guy, like he does tax for freelancers, and then I've sent him so many clients already, just to like make sure that we all.
You referred us to him.
You actually referred us to him when we started msizi. Because we were looking for like a tax guy who.
Well, now I have an accountant. If you need an accountant, I'll just send you those details.
Fortunately, we've got a good guy. Now,
that's good. Yeah. I think the most important thing when you're starting like out is just to have all your ducks in a row.
Right.
And I wish someone told me that, because I was sort of on the first bunch of people that started doing this. It was very like uncharted territory, and I was living very much through my like personal banking account, and then you don't really see how much money you're making because the money comes in and you spend it. It's just like that, you know. And then once I separated it, this was maybe only like 4 or 5 years in. Once I separated, I was like, oh my gosh, I actually like was being irresponsible. I wasn't really taking care of my finances because I was just seeing money and spending it and going on holidays. And I think when you're young and you in your early 20s and stuff, you just like this huge need to just explore the world. So you do tend to like want to, you know, go out to eat and explore new flavors and tastes because you suddenly have money. You know, when you're a teenager, it's like McDonald's is the only thing. Now you want to like, you earn money, you want to eat nice food, you want to try new things or maybe even travel. And I was just so focused on that in my 20s that I was like, I didn't really save much. I was like, oh, I'll save when I'm 30. Like I need to travel, and I'm happy I did that, but I wish that someone guided me a bit smarter on this.
I mean,
I guess.
I guess.
Story of all of our lives. Story of all of our lives. You're not. It's not an isolated thing.
Yeah. But I think there's also this beauty in exploring the world. Like you can never take that experience away from somebody, like those memories and what you saw and what you learned when you're traveling. So it's also like it's an investment in yourself. But at the same time, when COVID-19 hit, I was like, oh my God, I should have saved more money.
We were all saying that. Like, oh my gosh. So, like, you made this change. Obviously, it happened very naturally for you. But in terms of, did those small changes that you were making in your business and now kind of being more official, did it change the way that you approached brands and the conversations you had with them about making content? Where you're like, okay, well, I'm doing this properly now, you have to pay me properly?
Or, exactly. 100%. Because what I basically did was I had a mentor and she helped me sort of develop a framework and find out how much effort it takes to produce something, and then working my way back into figuring out where the profit lied, because it's very hard to kind of put a price on yourself when you're like using your time, or whether you're like producing a jingle maybe for a TV commercial. You're thinking about that thing the whole day. Even if you're getting lunch, you're thinking about and you get inspired in those moments. So how do you quantify that? So it's quite a challenge, but she helped me to quantify my time and then work back. And then I came up with a rate card, and I just sort of have a standard rate, and then what what I think people need to also do if you're freelancing, either in the influencer industry, whatever industry, is have your rate and then have your willing to discount rate.
Right.
So it's like, if the client can't pay that, I'm willing to go this low, and that's it. Like I can't, if I go lower than that, then I'm putting myself out of pocket.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. And then so when we approach clients, I do explain to them, like, you guys just see an Instagram post, but for me, it's like, we're putting things together, we're planning, we're thinking about your brand. Yeah, we conceptualize things. It's not just a case of take a picture and go. But a lot of people do also do that, and it's fine if you do that. That's also fine if you just like take a picture, go, if it works for you. But for me, because there's a conceptual process that goes into creating the content, it does cost something. So, and we can prove that conceptualizing works for us. It works for the content. It works to get engagement, and also the time spent commenting. A lot of people don't cost that out, but like you sit, say you get sponsored by a brand, you sit and you comment back to all the comments. That takes you an hour or so of your day. Or resharing posts, and that they benefit from it. So it's also remembering those kind of things. But it took me like a very, very long time to value that, because speaking to lots of people, asking lots of questions, and eventually they're like, actually the brand is benefiting so much from my interaction, yet I'm not charging them, and that's not fair on me as well.
And you find that the brands actually are willing to pay when you can quantify it for them. They're like, okay, you say, this is why I'm charging this much, because this is the hours I'm putting in, and this is the amount of work I'm doing for you. Then they're like, oh, if you put it that way, I'm willing to pay, because they can quantify anything else they pay for other service providers, because the service provider is giving them sort of a breakdown. So when you do that, and you actually are almost secure and like confident in your sort of line item, they're willing to pay. I love that.
It's the same as a lawyer, guys. Like, when a lawyer bills you, they actually put on their like WhatsApp conversation, 2 minutes, phone call, 2 minutes, and like, so we kind of have to do that same thing where it's like, I say to client, like, I'm available to you on WhatsApp from 8 to 5, Monday to Friday. I reply to comments, I'll reshare posts, I'll check the hashtag. Like, you can line item all of those and see how much they cost, and then the client's kind of like, oh shit, that's actually a lot of work, because they don't realize, they just think like why can't you just, like, one of my clients said to me, they sent me a brief and then like, oh, we need approvals by Monday. And I said, oh, it's not possible because it's now Friday. And then she's like, oh, but you have the whole week. She's like, you have the whole weekend to do it. And I'm like, well, I'm also a person who has a family, and I don't work on weekends, nor do you work on weekends. So it's not fair to expect like the influencer to work on the weekend, because that's their downtime. Monday to Friday is a work week, and they also need to relax and see family and friends and stuff like that. So I think it's also about like treating yourself or viewing yourself as a business.
Setting those like clear boundaries as a business, as a human, and then people respect you more and they value you more. And then
that's like, we learn that along the way, I guess.
Yes.
I mean,
and I think like
at 18, I was very much like, I'll do it. I don't mind. I'll work on the weekend.
Exactly. It's like, I was going to say that. It's like so many people are obviously trying to get somewhere and trying to get like something from brands or whatever. And it's maybe not their main source of income. And I guess until it is, and you really see the work that you're putting into something, you're like, okay, I'll do it.
Yeah, exactly.
And
that's also like different strokes for different folks. Everyone's got a different situation and where you're coming from. But I try not to glorify, like, I call it hustle porn, where that people talk about the hustle and like that hustle on the weekends, hustle 24 hours. Beyonce is the same 24 hours. I don't agree with that, because then like your mental health is also important.
Exactly.
Yeah, like that word hustle. I'm like, it means like you're trying to, like, what you're grinding for, what you're striving for. It's for me, it's like associated to the word strife and striving, and I don't think that's like very an effective way to work. Like this.
No, I don't. And
I
especially
get the
like
hustle
now,
mentality, but I don't agree with how you go about that hustling.
Yeah,
that's
it's
another
very
story.
much like I feel like it's like, okay, this is so, maybe it's a stretch, but it's very like apartheid regime induced, like POC people have to work harder and push harder, and like,
And
like our
survive.
parents raise us to be
I've
like,
actually
oh,
never heard that point.
exams are finished, or you're studying for the next exam because you think that you're gonna just pass. You need to study. So it's like, I was just saying this the other night, where I was at a predominantly white school where white parents would like pick their kids up from school after exams and be like, congratulations, you finished exams, like we're gonna go have a nice treat, I'm gonna get you milkshake. My parents like, how was the exam? Okay, so are you gonna be ready for paper 2? Paper 2 is only next like term. No, you need to prepare because you're sitting at home thinking it's a chill time. You need to study. And you're like, oh my god. So that's the difference. Yeah, like literally.
I remember
I always tell my parents like, we never celebrated anything. You guys always like pushing us to the grandstand.
Yeah, like I remember coming out of an exam and I was like, I need to study. What do I need to study for? I need to study. What's the next thing? And I actually had no more papers. And it's just because you like constantly on this.
And also you constantly been made aware that we're paying a lot of money to have you there.
Yes.
Yes,
we've worked very hard to get to this point. Not in a bad way. I love my parents. I also went to a predominantly
I also love my parents.
I love y'all. I thank you so much for doing what you did. Yeah. But like, it was always like in the back of your head, just like, oh wow, if I flop, or if I don't do this, it's like
sacrifice for you.
The sacrifice.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. So I think like we carry that into our adult lives also. We end up being like, we have that mentality of like, it's not over, like.
And just also being
going and
hypercritical of ourselves into the point we don't like do things. Like, I guess even for me, there's so many things that I've wanted to do and still want to do, but I'm just so hypercritical, like, of myself. Can I do it? Am I even good enough to do it? Because of this, like, I don't want to fail thing, almost, because of the sacrifices before. So like, if you fail, it's like you rather, it's almost like rather go into something that you can succeed in and make money for your family and be safe,
and
then like not and don't do those things that you might fail in, or like that might be difficult or might be unknown. That's
which is the same like with it being a creative. It's not like a really accepted career path in like a POC family, because you're like, what, you're gonna like, Mario, what do you mean you're gonna sing songs? Like, you're crazy, you need to be a lawyer, you're not gonna make money with music. The first thing that they think, we're like, no, you can't do that, like, you're clever.
You're clever enough.
But like, I didn't singing. No, let's not even get onto that conversation.
But I think also that's why I just really want to praise your authenticity, your continued authenticity. I think knowing how hard it is for a person of color to do something like this, especially if you're in a field that you can't quantify to your parents, or your family. You literally, what is this? Oh no, it's this new thing,
They're like, Mom, I can make money out of this, but just not yet. But I can make a lot of money out of this. And if I just work hard at it and if I pursue it, I'm gonna make money. I'll be able to buy a house, Mom. But they don't see nothing.
No, it's taken my parents like, okay, my mom's always been supportive, I must say. That she's more like she's out there for like a brown parent, because she's like, you're supporting your daughter with this funny thing. And she's like, but my dad, it's taken my dad like a good 10 years to like be like, oh, okay, you actually can survive with this thing. Like, I've been on magazine covers, won awards. My parents are still like, ooh, you're cutting it fine here. Guys, like, this is a real thing.
So, I mean, going on to then our next question, like, authenticity, number one, and number two, in the last, like, you were just speaking about just having a creative process and conceptualizing process for all of your content. Have you found that like developing a content plan and works for you? you've obviously seen results. How much do you put into actually planning what you're posting, you know?
So when I was younger, before I had a family and stuff, I did go with the flow a bit more. Like I'll go where it's flowing. So like if I'm feeling inspired and I create stuff around that. But now with the way my life is structured, I have to have more of a plan. So the content plan does really help. But I do feel I'm still a person who like variety is the spice of my life. So I do need that like at the moment we're shooting every Thursday, right? And it's kind of like that rebel in me is like, I want to bunk the shoot. Like, let's just last the shoot, because it's like I need like some like excitement. So it works for me, but it also like it works for me, but I also desire that like a little bit more of a like maybe it's a pressure or so sometimes I'll do naughty things, like I'll push my like say the content's due on Friday, I'll push myself and I'll like only create it on Thursday afternoon. Because I just need the excitement of like, oh, am I gonna do it properly? And then actually nice things come out of it. So I know to create that environment for myself where like I can be inspired. It doesn't come so well when you plan things, for me anyway. And I find a lot of creative people feel like planning kind of cuts the flow. It's like, oh, like I'm sure for you guys when you're planning music, it's like, oh, I have to plan this. It's like it needs to come to me. So there's sort of like, yes, it works for business, but I don't really enjoy it.
It really is a happy medium. I think like sometimes we have to plan the stuff or else they just don't get done, and then you aren't consistent. And then other times it's like, I'm really gonna cut off my creative juice if I plan this right now. So it's happy medium, I guess.
Sounds about right.
I think what works for you and where it flows for you is what's the best thing. Like if I wasn't a parent, or I had like, or maybe my son was maybe at school, but even then I'm still like the mom, like
exactly,
it's kind of annoying. Like I'm the person everyone looks at like, where's the food? And you're like, oh gosh, I'm that person, right? Okay, let me just think. Like every night I would like shock myself. I'm like, am I still doing this? Like, is this for the rest of my life? People are gonna expect me to have like food sorted. Even if I Uber Eats, it's like I'm still expected to like make the decision. Like I even tell my husband sometimes, I'm like, can't you decide what we eat? And he's like, but moms, he calls me moms. He's like, moms, like what are we gonna eat though? And I'm like, you are ordering, so you just
you also eating.
They'll be like, so pizza, then I'm like, just order. So it's like, there's like those elements. I think if you're at a different stage in your life, you can be more fluid and go with the flow, you know.
No, I think that's, I mean, it's good to know, and it's also an important part, and you know, important part of life to recognize the fact that seasons change, and you'd have to just go and understand that this is my season and not be depressed about it, but like change where you work, you know,
embrace it. But you know, a lot of the other influencers have like really inspired my process, like that I've actually interviewed on my podcast, because they'll talk about how they plan their content, and it's like so planned, and I'm like such a mess sometimes. So like it's just really inspiring. Like Akila Aaron told me, you know, she sits down in a quiet room for like 20 minutes and writes her captions, and then she feels that she writes her captions as if she's writing like an article, and then she feels that she writes more beautifully. And then like Nabila Karim, who's a modest influencer, she was saying like she plans her looks on a mood board, and then she'll go and like source outfits for those shoots, and then plan the locations, and she loves the process of planning that. And then my friend Andrew was saying to me like they shoot on a Sunday because he has a day job, him and his partner shoots him, so he'll like plan his mood board for the week and get super excited and like amped up for Sunday, because now it's like work every day, and then you get this like beautiful creative outlet on a Sunday. So I think like it's always so nice to pick up from other people like what they do and what works for them.
No, really. And I love hearing about all of that. I am fans of all of those people as well, and it's so exciting that we are having more people creating beautiful content in South Africa. I'm super proud of it, and I love following our local people, and I think more in the last 2 years I've just found more local people just to really love and follow and enjoy their journey. How do you feel about that though? How do you feel about all of these new content creators? And I guess it's getting easier to create content. Like on your, our phones are now like so much better than they used to be before. You're planning these big shoots, and now it's just like your iPhone.
Yes. I absolutely love it, because it was always like a dream of ours, like a group of us that had started. We kind of propelled the industry forward by like pushing the boundaries and getting brands to invest in influencers, or back when it was called bloggers. So for us, it was always like this dream to like create a community that now exists, because we found that it is very difficult for brands to keep investing in the same people. Like, they want to also change it up, and people need to have other people to look to. And, someone who's an influencer to you may not influence me. So we needed that expansion. And I love where it's at now, because things are changing and media is changing. So all these like new influencers that come up with this really super strong content, and it's like really directed well, and there's a concept behind it. That's exciting to me, because I feel like it creates more avenues for advertising and just to like uplift our industry as well. One thing that I'm always chatting to agencies and people about marketing and where things are going. And one nice thing that's happening is that they're saying they're employing more influencers to create ad content for brands, because like with COVID-19, brands couldn't really book the big shoots that they would usually book because of social distancing. So now they're like, well, why don't I just hire an influencer who really shoots really stunning stuff, and we can just repurpose that with a graphic designer to make it into an ad. So then influencers are having a secondary income. Maybe you don't have to post your content on your page, but they can use that content. But then also that's just a note to influencers to be careful about that and make sure they're not getting taken advantage of, and know about usage rights and stuff like that. But it's exciting because, magazines have all started falling away so fast. So there is this need for like a media space that speaks to more people.
Yeah. And I love that you mentioned the fact that different people speak to different people, and there's just, we are all so different, and brands are different. And that's also, I guess, going on to like the last question that we had for you. For both of us, we've been chatting about the word influencer quite a lot, and what does this really even mean? And we've been, I mean, you are an influential person, and really following a few kind of agencies and brands that have kind of picked up the word ambassador, which I really love, because essentially an influencer is an ambassador of a specific brand, or a brand looks to you for a partnership and they're like, hey, we want this to be long term. And regrettably, a lot of the time in South Africa, especially now, for the smaller influencers, brands are like, okay, we'll pay you this. But for me, ideally it should be at this long-term relationship. The brand is a part of your life, and you can tell stories for the brand. You're doing research because they want your audience, and
and vice versa.
So do you see the term influencer falling away? What do you think is the future of what you do?
I think it's definitely starting to fall away, but I saw this with blogger too. People, it started to become a negative connotation around the word, and then it evolved into a new word. And I think the word a lot of people are using now is like ambassador, like you said, or like opinion leader. That's become a word, but I think it will eventually change into something else. I'm not quite sure what it's going to be. Like, I didn't imagine the word influencer, that kind of just came out. So I can't imagine what it would be, but I do think that it would change again, especially now with social media making it so easily accessible. And like the influencer term is kind of so broad. There are people that are considered influencers that we wouldn't necessarily as a brand use them to market a product, but they're considered influential in their own right. So it's a very tricky space for brand to navigate, and it becomes this thing of like not trusting the person, like especially when you're choosing an ambassador. Brands try to go with someone who fits like a cookie cutter, good goody two shoes mold because they feel safer there, which kind of creates a problem for the newer guys, because it's like, how do you come in and create that trust with a brand, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that what that means for us is like we need to actually have more agencies that represent and speak for influencers, because if an agency is you know, trusted by brands, then that agency can propel someone forward and create that relationship or build that bridge between brand and influencer. Because I find a lot of the time influencer working directly with brands is like a disconnect. But when you have that middleman that can connect the two conversations, I think that's important. So like, I even spoke about doing something like that in the future, maybe if it doesn't happen. Like, I don't want to actually do it because I have too much stuff to do.
I'm a mom.
But if it doesn't happen, I'm like, I'm raising people. But if it doesn't happen, like in the next 4 years or so, by like somebody that does it properly, then I think I'd end up going in the and trying to like just pick up that space. There's a lot of representation, but a lot of it is like taking advantage of influencers as well. Where they're taking big commissions and stuff.
Yeah, I feel a lot of the representation, especially in the sort of ambassador influencer world, is like glorified email responders. It's like, yes, this is what I can do, this is what she can do for you, this is what she can't do, this is her timetable, and it's not really being in tune with the brand and that relationship and developing that relationship, and then knowing the boundaries and the sort of framework in which that's the two people can work together, the brand and the influencer,
like creatively as well, you know. So if the agent is there to like you say, just bridge together the two conversations, the brand is coming to the person because they know they have something creative to bring to the table that's going to add value to this conversation. Or so,
and I think it comes down to a little bit of integrity as well, because like as an agent, you need to be able to say, like, say I get the job for a brand, and then as an agent, I know I have other people on my books that maybe aren't big. It's like using the bigger person to get the smaller person work is a good way to do it, I think. Like, because that big influence is maybe already trusted by the brand, but then saying like, oh, why doesn't this person partner up and do like a smaller version of the campaign, just to build that trust? Because like a lot of the agents, and I've had so many agents, it becomes like a very cutthroat transactional process where they're really just interested in their commission, which is also understandable because they have to run businesses. Oh, sorry, I lost it. You're back. So I understand where it comes from, but there needs to be like a level of integrity. And if there's a way that even if a modeling agency could take it over, because I like the way I've been with 2 modeling agencies now, and I like the way they handle jobs. Like, they ask a lot of questions from the client and really make sure it's right for their model. So I think like if someone can take over and do that for influencers, it would be so great.
I don't even think this is part of what we wanted to ask, but I was just wanting to know, like, how do you remain authentic? How do you remain authentic in a world or in a sort of environment that is just generally based on like transactions? Like, I can pay you X to post X, and and how do you how have you remained authentic, knowing that your followers or people who you influence look up to you in a sense that they believe in what you're saying, and you have to be authentic, because if they don't, then you'll sort of they just won't believe you. They can see right through you because they've been following you for so long. They know every single sort of in like nuance of your character. In Aisha wouldn't do that, or she would do that, or I believe her when she says I should get this because I've been following her for 10 years and she's never done this before, so this is out of character, so I can see right through her. How have you sort of maintained that authenticity and being able to say no? How have you been?
So we have like a little framework, if you will. It's just like a small thing that I do, where if a brand comes to us for something, I imagine that item in my life already. So sometimes the item or product will come into your space that you maybe never interacted with, and then you have to ask yourself, like, how would I interact with this? Would I buy it myself?
Yeah.
And then I have like a little bit of it's 7 to 10 days of trying out something. So if it's something new that I've not used, and then I can see like, oh, this is something actually, had I known about this, I would have bought it for myself anyway. And that's kind of how I go about doing, like, trying to remain authentic. There is times when it's like, it's difficult, you know, you don't want to disappoint people, especially when you build relationships with agents and then with agencies, and then they come to you with a product that you just feel like doesn't really fit. So it's kind of hard to just like navigate that. But we've just got like a standard reply that I say where I'll be like, you know, I don't feel it aligns with like my messaging. For example, a brand came to us recently about advertising like a flavored kids cereal. And that's not something I really believe in. Like, I wouldn't give my kids like a sugary cereal because I just don't believe that it's healthy. Like, I'd rather have my son have like a slice of chocolate cake from their granny or whatever than have like a cereal that's sugary. So it was like difficult to say no to, because the person, I know them and I wanted to like help them out with making their clients happy. But it's also like, this doesn't align with me, and I would never buy that for my child. So why would I invite other people to purchase it, you know, and people would be able to tell. So that was like a clear example of something where I'm like, okay, that just won't work. Like, I won't even try it. But then what I do is like try and present something else, like in the brand portfolio. So if the company makes something else that I think is healthy or does align with me, then I'll say like, okay, I'll do this, you know. And how about we rather promote this thing, and we'll give you guys like a 15% discount because I know you weren't planning to promote this or whatever, and see if we can like work out.
So much sense. So almost like,
but it's really hard to remain authentic, honestly.
It is.
No, it's difficult, but I guess, as you say, like that sort of like breathable framework, just so that you know that if you just need to refer back, is this within that framework? Is it within my boundaries that I've kind of loosely set, but I have set? Keeps you within that.
Like, even with Discovery Health, we did something with Discovery Health where it was just a shout out to someone that you thought was really like doing an amazing job in COVID-19, and I felt like, you know, I didn't see myself really doing a Discovery Health campaign before, but because it was shouting out someone that I felt was doing well, and I have a personal friend who is a medical doctor and is working in the ER, and we chat all the time. I felt like, oh, she would like really appreciate that shout out, so it's aligned, and then it's like, okay, this works for now, you know. So
I think it's good, and like also just to have people around you that you can just have as a sounding board, like if you think, and I guess the more you're making these decisions, the easier it gets to kind of like
know, definite no's, which are maybes and which are definite yeses, because you've
exactly
right,
because I'm old in the game.
I'm a no I'm a no gamer.
Well, we've come to the end of our conversation, which we are really grateful for. Well, I am, at least.
Super always grateful to chat to you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time, and all the best. Be safe. Love to the family, and
we'll keep in contact.
Have an incredible year. 2020 is going to be great, by the way.